Hello and welcome to stage 5 of the dirt racing series. We're in our B+ division in the afternoon as ever. It's going to be an interesting ride today. We're on triple loops in London, so a very flat start, one sprint segment, then up to Leith Hill for a double point segment. Then we have Box Hill before the finish where we may see some breakaways, into the normal finish banner. Just hopefully get the course up for you in a second and just have a look at it, and I'll go over the key points. Hopefully most riders are logging in. We might see a few latecomers for the Zwift update today. It's always frustrating, but they do have to fall on Sunday. I think we might be a bit more happy with Zwift updates if there were some larger updates, but that's a whole different topic. So having a quick look at full screen with the course for you. So as you can see, we have a very flat introduction till about 14.2 kilometers where we have the sprint segment. As we carry on with that, we've got a flatter bit down the escalator, then we start up onto Leith Hill. While it looks very much inclines for most of the way up, there are some flatter sections. We have initial few minute push to begin with through some switchbacks, and it flattens out for a significant period. At the start of the KOM there's a little bit of flats, and then we're into consistent 8 to 10% for the climb. Should be about a 7-minute effort, I think. Not really totally sure on my timings, and this has been a long time since we did it. And I don't have very fond memories of going up Leith Hill in the World Time Trials. Team Time Trial Championships. But so we're going to go double points, as you should be able to see at the bottom for the Leith Hill segment. So it's going to be really important for teams' scores up there, especially if they can get in the top 3, where we'll have double FTS points, will be worth 40 points. That's going to be a real significant difference, especially with the 100 points at the finish. There'll generally be a big selection here, I think, compared to some of the lower cats that we saw earlier. It won't be quite so significant, but there will be a selection. And we'll see some more bunching on the downhill, and then some maybe early attacks at Box Hill and into the finish at 40.9 kilometers. Just so people see where we are, we'll go quickly through all the classifications, as there's a lot up for grabs going into the last week. Currently, we have the Belgian Zwift riders, after winning last week, have propelled themselves into first in the overall standings, but TBR just 1 point back. Valhalla are in third, which 2 points ahead of Dirt Eagle Fang, 3 behind TBR, so they should be fairly comfortable in third. Although again, we've had such big variations. See that I have maximum of 80 points, top teams on 68, most teams are mid-50s. So there's a lot of variation every week with this. So, you know, there can be big swings. For most of the series, we've had Dirty Goosters, who are currently in 5th leading. But last week, I'm not quite sure what happened in terms of this. I'm not sure if this table is totally right, as they seem to have 4 riders just behind BZR, I think it was about 32 seconds behind them. But they seem to have been given a much slower time. Not sure what's going on. Maybe there was an issue with registering. But they're down in 5th at the moment. We'll see if that's updated later on. Moving on to the individual standings, which a lot of people are interested in. We have Paul Harris from the Dirty Goosters up top. Then Christopher Herzl from Watsvatbrick. And Sam Atkinson currently in third. All quite close, only 33 points split in the top 3. Martin Newell and Robin Anderson just behind them, but I suspect that it's going to come between those 3 riders first. Sam Atkinson generally a bit stronger over the climbs when in form, but he's had a couple of races where he's not quite hit his top level. Christopher Herzl has been very good on the sprints, and Paul Harris, a bit of an all-rounder, but good watts per kilo numbers, especially on the sprint. And for 1 minute, so it could be quite dangerous, especially towards the climbs if he's not been dropped by then. These are quickly just the results of last week's race. So you can see Dirty Gooses at the bottom, not quite sure what's going on now, with the Belgian Zwift riders taking first, Dirty Eagle Fang in second, Dirty Box in third. They're a really strong performance from deep in the field. And then Valhalla in 4th, TBR 5th. So you're going to see big turnarounds, top 3 teams taking 1st, 4th and 5th last week. It's not as straightforward as some series. And quickly, we do have individual standings for climbers and sprinters. So climbers, as I mentioned earlier, Sam Atkinson first, Herzl in second, Paul Harris in third. It'll be between Herzl and Sam Atkinson today, but so many points on offer, 40 first up the climb. So whoever takes that is most likely going to win those individual standings. And as we move on to the sprinters, we have Robin Anderson first, Swanee from Dirty Eagle Fan in second, Paul Harris third, and Snowfall. See how Paul's a bit of an all-rounder up there with both. Ron Anderson very strong. Not sure where Herzl is in this. I think he did quite well on some of the sprints, so I'm surprised not to see his name up there. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, we'll get back to the race as we start off. Generally, as we've settled into this series, the starts have been less aggressive. We will see a bit of a kick out until we get up to about 40 kilometers an hour, but after that, no one's gonna break away, even in this kind of very up and down start. It is a very rolling start in London, quite brutal to begin with. We expect it'll all be kept together for the majority of this race. The sprint, we might lose a few people, but generally it's losing off the back rather than breakaways off the front. What'll be nice is up Leith Hill, we really will see it split up with breakaways off the front. We'll start showing some numbers of some of the riders as we get up. But it'll be interesting to see how BZR do, as they're generally a bit more of a team in terms of their point scoring. So we saw some of the other teams. We saw Sam Atkinson and Martin Yule, who have taken most of the points for TBR, really strong riders. And then a lot of the dirt riders. Individually, Swanee was doing very well until he missed one of the early races. See someone powering through very aggressively there. Ollie from the Goosters. Not sure what happened there, whether he got dropped at the start, but he's just pushing through at 10 watts per kilo there. Maybe he got dropped and had to work his way back through the group. But he's settled back down now. So you can see we have a 3% incline going into the finish line, which is what we've just gone through. It is a bit bumpy. There is opportunity for a kind of a longer attack. I think a lot of the people going for points will try and go a bit early, but if you can stay on their wheel, there's still enough significant draft to do well there, and then kick through on that last little bit. You see Kevin Heyman just going for a little bit of a push off the front. Not sure this is an actual move. Might be getting his little photo opportunity as one of the kind of runners, organisers of the series. And lots of credit has to go to the guys who organised this. It's a brand new season. They're putting a lot of work. You see with the website that's so great. Lots of information available there. And it really is a lot of effort to put on something like this. And I think we all appreciate it. Big credit to all of them involved with it. Just keep watching, as the first bit is a bit interesting until we get onto the kind of upper section of London, as I call it. The section around the same level as some more. We have a little climb up Northumberland Avenue into it, but generally it's pretty flat once we're up there. So as we go through this section, there's not too many attacks with this experience field. In lots of races you will see people pushing regularly. You find a lot of inexperienced people see, oh, we're up a few percent, and they will push an attack, so you just have to be cautious here. No one's going to really get dropped if you're paying attention, but you might have to do a lot more work than necessary. When you're on these downhills, you want to be doing a lot less. See Kevin here pushing above almost 4 watts per kilo, but a couple of people around him are in the 2s, almost less. I know it's tiny bits here, you know, tiny bits there, but it does start to add up. You want to kind of take as much advantage of these inclines and declines to do the work on the incline. Really, really rest up on the decline, and just try and lower your average. You know, if you're saving 10 watts, it can make an average for the entire course up the climb. It means you might be able to do 30, 40 watts extra up the climb, and that can be a huge, huge difference. Especially when we're in the kind of spicier end of things with this division. Most of these rides are very much getting towards the border of AB. And so, you know, there's a very kind of fixed limit on what they're capable of. So the more you can rest, the more you can get closer to that limit. The more competitive you are. You'll see the top riders tend to push really, really hard on the segments and rest really, really significantly in between them. As we see this chat getting nice and spicy, trying to lure others into going for early attacks. We've got Schultz from Watt Fabric pushing a bit harder here. Not quite sure what the intentions with this are, but it always makes it a bit more interesting when you see people trying to kind of just make something different happen. We've got Clem and Antoine, both the Goosters riders, following him. Not quite sure what their purposes are. You know, if you're not going to make a breakaway for anything this early on in the race, it's better off just sitting in, letting others chase down. Of their Goosters, they're going to want to try and prove a point and get first overall today. And Watt Fabric, while a really strong team, they're not their targets. Their targets will be that BZR team who are in first. once we're up the climb, I'll start to give you some information about kind of the current riders. So the lineups have changed a bit each week, with each rider team allowed to use up to 10 riders throughout the series. And this week we've got quite a lot of lighter weight riders, which is nice to see, especially when we've got the climb. You know that if you're gonna, when you're at a certain level, you're gonna be fairly capped at what you're gonna perform. When you have lighter weight riders, because they're under the pure watt limit, they're able to do a little bit more. So you've got a couple of riders who are actually in Cat A are able to do 4.7, 4.6 for 20 minutes. In there, and they'll be able to do a lot more over 5 minutes, about 5.2, 5.5 maybe for even some of them. Whereas a lot of the actual Cat Bs, right on the limit of Cat A to Bs, I normally say is around 5 watts per kilo for people who are quite well trained over 5 minutes. So those riders who are lighter are going to have a significant advantage. It might see quite a few of them making a breakaway. If they are going to do it, I'd recommend they go really early today, rather than kind of waiting till the latter half of the climb. They want to just push straight away and try and stretch that group out. Because if they leave it too late, they're still going to be left with a chase group that's quite bunched together, whereas what they want to do is fragment it, get the main chase group really stretched out, and so they spend half their time chasing each other, trying to join back together on the downhill, and can't take any advantage of the washing machine type effect of just repeatedly having riders hit the front, keeping the pace of the group high, which will easily chase down a solitary 1 or 2 riders. As you see, there's a few early attacks we just caught very comfortably. No one's having to do too much in the group, sitting at about 44, 45 kilometers an hour in the group, with no one pushing particularly hard or above kind of threshold. Have lost one rider off the front. We did have a couple of dropouts earlier, sad to see, and we've lost Bates from RWMR. Not ideal this early on. Hopefully he keeps pushing. See, we might have had a TBR rider who's dropped as well. I guess that might be a dropout. Sad to see, but you know, things like that do happen, and that's why in this series we allow for 8 riders to take the field each race, but only 4 count for the team standings. Just gives leeway when this kind of thing happens. So we've got a long kind of extended downhill section here. Nothing really should happen. Most riders are well enough to kind of, well, experienced enough to keep an eye on things and not be affected by it. It might stretch out a little bit as you get some of the heavier riders, people like Swanee pulling towards the front naturally without doing too much work. It's not quite super tuck, but even if they're doing, you know, similar or even like a watt per kilo less, their pure weight's going to make a difference and pull them towards it. So let's see if we can get up some of the information on the riders signed up so we know who to look out for on the climbs. I'm not sure, this might be too small for you to see. Might just put it full screen just so you can see a bit easier. Well, not much will be going on. So this is kind of just sorted by 20 minutes, as that's going to be quite a crucial kind of time period. Obviously what we're really looking out for is 5-minute times, but 20 minutes and 5 minutes are fairly similar. I think it's probably about 5 minutes is roughly an 85% aerobic effort, whereas 20 minutes is going to be approaching 95, 99% aerobic. So you see Anya, one of the favourites we've seen from previous weeks, up there. Kilian van der Beele, not quite sure how to pronounce that, apologies, from BZR, a junior who's up there as well, 4.7, and with a very good sprint. They should do really well today if they can keep up with the pace, especially not do too much work on the flats. Then we've got Teresa Daviet, 4.6. Sam Atkinson, we know, is a big favourite, especially in the individual rankings. Heather Shanks from ZR Scott up 4.5, Deepak from Dirt 4.5, and Antoine. And then Simon Flintstone, who's a heavier rider, but up at 4.4, be very strong. So one thing I've got to note as well, there is a lot of the time on the climbs it is down to watts per kilo. When you start to get to the top end of categories, your pure watts is also quite impactful. So a rider who's doing, if 2 riders are doing, say, 4.3 average for 20 minutes, but one's, you know, doing 100 watts more, they're going to have a significant pace advantage. And while, you know, it's minimised compared to real life, people say in Zwift, it's still significant enough. And that could be, you know, the best part of 10, 15 seconds up a climb, despite having the same watts per kilo. Sorry, over like a 20-minute climb. Probably best to clarify that. So you do want to watch out for those heavier riders who are close to the limit. As well, there might be 0.3 in this case of Simon, you know, 0.3 watts per kilo over 20 minutes less. Over 5 minutes, he might be, 0.2 less. Wait, no, it'll go up 0.4 less. Sorry about that. But, with that advantage, will kind of dissuade because he's got 100 watts more. 5 minutes, maybe 150 watts more than people like Killian and Anya. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on today up the climb. It is a very wearing effort, and those who can play it very sensibly on the lead-up will really have an advantage, as there is a lot of draft available, and you just want to sit in the pack, chill out, and even on the first part of the climb, just chill out. We saw earlier some people went for early breakaways on there, and it didn't really pay off. We saw Leal, who was a lightweight rider, managed to attack hard throughout. He didn't quite go hard early on. He sat in for a bit, and then about a third of the way in, when it got steeper, through the village, he really kicked off with one of his other WMZ teammates. I think we'll see quite similar today. Most of the rides are strong enough to hold the top guys and girls for maybe 2 minutes of a 5-minute climb. But once we get past that point, they'll really start to fall back, and you'll see the difference in fitness pay off. So the sprint's about 14.2 kilometers. This one, most of the rides are very comfortable. They're going to be sat in zone 2, maybe just above zone 2 for some of them, and they're not going to be doing too much work. It's just kind of a bit of a boring section almost for them. Lots of the courses are like this. You have large kind of flat sections, not much going on, and then it starts to get exciting on certain segments. That's why some people prefer, or equally others hate, the likes of New York and Yorkshire, where the course is constantly doing something. It's always a climb or a decline, or just before one of the two. And there's always something going on, but it means you have very little chance for recovery. While you do get some recovery on the downhill, if you're constantly having to punch up, you eventually just get more and more fatigued, and your legs just can't cope with the repeated efforts. Had some very, very bad experiences on Yorkshire, where I blew up hard after the first climb of 2 laps. When I mean 3 laps. When you've got 3 or 4 climbs a lap that are good 2-minute efforts, it's absolutely horrific. You just drop back and drop back and drop back throughout. Whereas at least with these longer courses, if you can make it over the next feature and stay with the group, even if you're not doing well competing for points, at least you're there. You have time to recover. You can kind of get back and make up for the kind of issues you faced. As you can see, there's a bit of a train forming towards the back as well. It's just trying to get that little bit extra rest. See people like Swanee putting out monster watts, able to do sub 2 watts per kilo. Well, if you look at the kind of some of the lighter guys who are still doing around the same, which is 200 watts, but because they're a bit lighter, they're having to do a little bit more in terms of watts per kilo. And as ever, we've got people like Sam Atkinson just chilling towards the back, Robin Anderson. Let's see if we can find them. I saw the blue Tron of Sam just chilling at one point. He might have moved up though. There we go. And in terms of kits, hopefully those of you who watch series will be a bit more familiar now, but this is the TBR kit right at the back. Zoom in for you in green, light blue and dark blue colours. Then Dirty Goosters are in the blue llama kit just off to the left. I'll zoom in on Antoine here. So this is the Goosters who are in 5th. Let's see who else we can pick out for you. BZR have a quite clear kit. I think one of them might be pushing off the front a little bit. It's this black kit, and if you zoom in carefully, it does say Belgian Zwift Riders right on top. Very nice, easy to identify. KC were just ahead. Very clear, obvious yellow kit, hard to not recognise them. Got the Dirty Box in this green kit, very South African-esque, with most of them coming from South Africa. Assume the box is a reference to the Springboks. Hopefully they're not quite as successful as the rugby team. But yeah, it wasn't one of the BZR lines. Well, just pushing the pace at the front. I'm not totally sure what it might be. BZR tend to have they had all 8 riders taking part in the team time trial, and so they might have a few extra guys today. So what we might try and do is have those riders just constantly attack off the front, save 4 or 5 of them to really go for the points, and have the others just push the pace. See if they can get some people to chase on. So he's going really hard here. Whether he just wants a bit of screen time for himself. But he's pushing really hard. I'm just seeing if he can get anyone to jump. We're about 4 kilometers away from the sprint, so it's a bit too early to make a real move. But we'll see what happens. And Michael's just bringing it back for the group. It's a really strong ride from Casey. Raced against him a lot, normally in one of their top teams. Trusted and very experienced TTTer. May not always get the top level points, but he's always regularly scoring. See Iron doing well, chasing it down. A couple of Valhalla riders. See all the top teams starting to put riders in there just to watch this attack. You know, now there's 3 or 4 riders up there, it's starting to become a bit more of a serious threat. But you don't want to just launch all your team in. You want to just put 1 or 2 guys in there, see if you can keep it away. If you put all 2 or 3, 4 riders in, every other team's going to work to try and bring you back. Whereas if it's just one guy up the road, no one's too fussy. Iron really pushing here. Not quite sure why they keep pulling out of these little attacks. They really want to just jump across. Andre's just kind of bringing the whole group back. If you see the gaps behind, it's 5 meters Sam Atkinson and Iron. And then the rest of the entire bunch is peloton. It's just behind. So just kind of bringing it back rather than jumping over and trying to join in. Maybe they don't particularly want to kind of have a split. But you'd think they're strong enough riders, both of them. If they jumped in, they'd expect to pick up some good sprint points. While the rest of their team could focus on FTS. It's all coming back together now. Plenty of time before the sprint. Well, we've got a load. Hopefully you might have seen some of the Valhalla kit. This is a rider who seems to be riding for Valhalla, but not actually in their kit, this S-Douches. I'm not sure if that's a full name or a play. See if we can find Anya, one of the other Valhalla riders. Here we've got R. James for Valhalla is in this blue kit. The orange and white stripe down the middle, very recognisable. And clear on the rest of the field. You can see a couple of them around there. So we're about to hit a little climb. There's nothing crazy up here. Still very draftable all the way up, but we tend to see the field get a bit stretched out, especially in B and A categories. Everyone's capable of keeping the draft and the speeds are high. We don't get much below mid-30s up here, but it's just enough to kind of pull people through, and you don't want to be sat at the back having to chase through. Plus, if you start to push up here, once you get to the top and ease off, so everyone comes through, you can just settle in and get a really good position at the back ready for the sprint. So we do a little loop of the area off to the right on the mini-map now, and then we're coming back through for this sprint itself. So there's about a 1 second gap to the rest of the group. It's all fairly comfortable, but riders are pushing quite a bit to get it. It's not going to really break up for the sprint. These people aren't going to suddenly stay away. Everyone here is more than strong enough to bring it back, but it just means others have to do a bit more work. And you can sort out your positioning while others are trying to chase on. By the time they're chased on, they're in a bad position. They have to really think about it again. We'll see if we can find some of the sprinters going for the individual sprint points. I think it's between Robin Anderson and Swanee, as we said, who are going to be the main competitors. Paul Harris, Snowy up there, Magnus Wickland and Tom Monter up there, but I think the main people will be Robin Anderson. He's very much going to be sprint focused today, I think. And Snowy, perhaps. I think Swanee, with his pure watts and fitness, might be able to give it a good shout up the KOM, and I think he'd back himself to do it, especially, you know, being one of the teams chasing the points. He's riding for Eagle Fang, I believe, who are currently in 4th, with Goose in 5th, so it's very tight between the two teams, so there's going to be very much about the actual overall points for them. They know how important the finish will be in that climb, so they might just chill out a bit more on this. You'll see the real sprinters are going to be sitting towards the back now, getting ready. Can't quite find some of them. Just pick them as they come through the group. We've got one person ramping up early. And it's a bit early off the front. So you see Swanee's gone very early there. Atkinson trying to chase him down. I think Swanee will have seen Blessums from BZR going, but now he's just sat all on his own before the segments. Really, really poor timing from Swanee. Great ride. He's going to be putting out huge watts and do very well, but he could have done so much better on it. Sam Atkinson's chasing him down. He's gaining significant ground. He's going to get lots of FPS points. He's got people like Clem, Ollie coming through, all coming through hot. Simon Flintstone, Bosco Aribe. Lots of people in the points there. I'm very sad for Swanee there. That'll take away his sprint points. So Snowy in the end, as mentioned earlier. Herzl from Watt Fabric getting first, second. Bosco Aribe from Valhalla in third. So this is FDS, just to be clear. Flintstone in sixth. Didn't see Robin Anderson. I haven't actually seen him in the group, so I'm not sure if he is signed up and racing today. He's definitely someone who would normally have dominated. Sadly for Swanee, he went on the back of one of those BZR guys. Maybe he thought he was going to go a bit hotter and a bit harder out. Did well to try and jump on their wheel, but if he was going for FTS, he just went way too early. It's good to go on your instincts and kind of play what's ahead, but you've got to be aware of who is going and how many are going and how early it is. If you see one guy going that early, it's unlikely to be a successful move. If you see 2 or 3 people going that early, then it's a whole different case and you've got to go with them. Fair play to Swanee for trying. He's putting out some monstrous numbers and still did fairly well. They've got us some foul points at least. It's not like it's all for nothing. But he'd have been very much, I think, targeting some of those FTS to take the individual sprint standings. I'm not sure where Snowy finished in first across the line, but it'll be very close, I think, between him and Swanee. And not Herzl. Who else is up there in the sprint standings? I think between Snowy, it'll be between Snowy and Swanee if Robin Anderson wasn't actually racing there. So Snowy was 10 points behind Swanee going into that, but he got plenty of points there, taking first FTS, so 20 there. So it'll be very tight between the two of them for the individual sprint standings. Just have a look. Yeah, we can't see Robin Anderson signed up. Well, we saw him signed up, but not racing today. So hope everything's okay with him. But that's going to cost him his individual sprint standing in the competition. While the sprint's important, it's all going to be about this climb. It's double segment points and it's going to be the big decider. Let's hope those riders there can get some recovery. We have dropped a couple of guys, so just go back and look at that. We're a bit focused on the front at the moment as we go through the point segments. Go back and see who we've lost. So Hutchings, Dirty Eagles. And Michael, that's a big loss for KC. Bit surprised. He was pushing quite hard through the segment, before the segment up the climb, and chasing on the people who went for the breakaway, so he might have just been doing a bit too much. Antoine from the Goosters, another loss for them. Tommy from Eagle Fang. So Eagle Fang lost quite a few two riders now. Goosters are down 1. Box down 1. But the rest of the favourites, TBR, Valhalla, all there with plenty of rides in the front group. BZR seem to all be fine. See plenty of them. See if we can get you an overhead shot. So you can see the makeup, but we've still got 50 odd rides in that front group. It'll be hard to see a real dominance of teams. BZR have plenty, Goosters have plenty still, even though they've lost 1. See a lot of those llama kits in light blue, the Goosters kit. Plenty of Valhalla. Things get a little bit more exciting now. We've got about 3 kilometres till the climb. Well, till the start of the climbing, not until the segment itself. About 5, maybe even 6 kilometres till the start of the segment itself. But we've got a good 8 to 10 minutes of work before it. As you can see, for most of these riders, even though they've done the sprint, they're back down. Heart rates are starting to come down. See Sam Atkinson well below 170s, 180s now. I think he has quite a high max heart rate, if I remember correctly. So for him, he's maybe not, chilling, but he's far more down. You see a lot of people chatting straight away. They're fairly comfortable. They're just back into recovery, prepping for the climb now. So yeah, Sam Atkinson, the max heart rate around 200, just over 200, so 160 for him is fairly comfortable, probably above his zone 2, but not by much. It's just coming down and coming down. So Hutchings from Eagles is doing quite well to keep this gap. There is a bit of a group behind him forming. Michael, Forbes and Jonesy all working together. But Hutchings, despite being dropped quite a while ago, he's managing to hold on to the front group. I know 12 seconds seems like a lot. He's not going to make it back, but he's not suddenly getting dropped significantly. The front group's definitely going a bit slower than you'd expect. See in mid 40s-ish, sorry. Don't know why I even started with mid-30s, but 40 kilometers an hour on the flats. It's not quick, especially for Cat B. As you saw earlier, they're doing 44, 45, so they have really chilled out. No one wants to push in this section. It's all about just kind of resting. I mean, I say no one wants to push, but we have got one person attacking off the front. I'm not sure this is the most sensible effort. Again, it's Bessams of B's at our lines. I think he's just here to agitate things, and no one's falling for it this time. Know fully well with a downhill coming through the escalator, which is really steep, he's just going to be gobbled straight up again by the group. But it's good to see that BZR and BZR are trying stuff with their riders, just trying to excite the group, make things interesting. Because they're a really strong team, but not necessarily great individuals. Though some of their riders are fantastic individual riders, but they're focused more as a team. They're going to want to change things up a bit. They want things to kind of fall apart a little bit, and so they have multiple rides in that front group. Whereas at the moment, there's so many strong rides, especially in this Div 1 field. Well, Div 1, it would normally be in the ZRL Div 1 field. I mean, it'd be a very, very strong. It's more like a playoff style field for Cat B, really. There's so many top level riders here. But, you know, there's going to be 10, 15 really strong individuals who are capable of winning the race whenever they want, if they sign up for most races. And so when they want to break it up and lose a couple of those guys so they can start packing out with their strength in depth as a team, while you still have all these top riders in, then it's going to be very hard for them to score regular points and really beat out some of them, especially when it's two segments, one that's worth double points. So there's so much based on the top 3 riders, top 4 riders over this segment. If they can get one of their rides in there, they're going to be golden to maintain first place overall. But if not, it's going to be tight, and they're going to want their group to split up and just pack it out so they get plenty of finish points and quite a lot of lower points from the segment. So you have a little kind of gentle incline coming into it, and then if you see just to the top right of your screen, you can see the switchback sign. That's why it picks up to 4-5%. It's probably draftable at B speeds, but it's so minimal. You're probably doing like 5% less work in the draft, maybe 10% at a push. So it's not significant, but it adds up. You want to make sure you're in the draft, and you don't really want to be the one working off the front. But it's not going to make the difference between making the front group and not making it. You see Pim, I'm not sure if it's Pim, I just made that up. Very used to riding with a Pim, great rider. But Van Wyn from BZR again pushing the pace. Lots of the BZR rides repeatedly at the front, as you said. I think there is a very clear task from them just to eat up that group pace, using their riders who may not necessarily be targeting points for themselves, just to make everyone else work, while they know the rest of their team that they don't have to chase on. So here we go into the kind of slight uphill, see what happens. Very interested to see who makes the first move trying to push the pace here. Actually, we start off quite aggressive. We didn't quite realise it got up to 9% or so. So it's quite an aggressive start. It'll bring the group speed down early. So we see it's Schultz from Watt Fabric leading up, 5.5 watts a kilo, 5.6 probably not maintainable through this section. Very aggressive pace, going to break up the group. Big kudos to him for pushing it. Because we went into the start of that quite slow for what I was expecting. We have lost a lot of speed, so there won't be much draft at all. I'm just focusing, we'll just see how his gap on this on the group. See the group's mainly together, we've lost a couple off the back, but you see how thin it's getting compared to earlier. It's really stretching out. Looking at 5-6 rides across in a row, so at least 10 rows deep for this pack of 50 odd. So it really is making a difference. See it's starting to trail off towards the back as well, you know. We're only 30 odd seconds into the climb and it's already stretching out thanks to Schultz's pace at the front. And we have a couple of riders. See the top riders who'll start to be, at least the top climbs will start to be moving up to these front 3 groups, front 3 rows at the moment. Like to see it. They know that, you know, shouldn't break apart here, but you don't want to let too much happen in front of you. You just want to be able to keep an eye on it, but not be working the pace. See Van der Biel from BZR Lines, we mentioned earlier, one of the stronger riders. Suspect Anya's somewhere around here. Sam Atkinson's here, I've seen his name. Deepak Kumar from Dirty Eagles about. So all those top climbers, Herzl, just chilling out, keeping in a good position to watch what's going on, but not necessarily pushing themselves into the wind at the front. So here we flatten out for a bit. There's a flatter section. I believe there's another little punch up just for a couple of seconds. Actually, I think it's a bit of an elongated one here, then a punch up. But again, you're just sitting in and just not doing too much work until you need to. Try and take a look further back. So I think it's about 40 still in the top group. The numbers start to fall apart a bit. So we've lost one of the Valhalla riders on the box. And that's about it. So, you know, this group's still fairly strong. Sorry, apologies, didn't even go far enough back. We've lost Witzel from Watt Fabric even. And a couple of other riders. But generally it's all fairly together. You can see the packs come together a little bit more in the flat. So it's important that you just kind of hold on. Even if you are struggling, if you can just keep to that rider in front, don't let the gap open up, you'll still be okay. Especially when it regularly flattens out. So I think Anya's caught in a bit difficult position here. I think she wants to move up. And that's why I saw the kind of 5.7 watts per kilo for a few seconds. She wants to be a little bit higher up. But you know, you equally don't want to do it on the flatter sections. But then you don't want to be too far back when it hits the steeper bit, just in case someone goes and tries to break it up. She managed to do that really well, just slowly sliding up after one little punch higher. Just using that speed to go through. Then between these kind of segments, everyone knows the points aren't here. It might be interesting to see BZR pushing a little bit harder themselves through this. Maybe they don't want to play into the hands of some of the lighter riders, but given they have one of the lighter riders of their own, it'd be interesting to see them trying to go for it, just to help Killian just kind of break through. Otherwise he's going to have to do all the work on his own, kind of break it apart. As if they can use or sacrifice a few riders just ahead of him, just to help pull the group apart a bit without him using all his watts. Which is what they seem to be doing now, with Van Cutsem just moving up 5 watts per kilo through this little puncher. It's only about 10 seconds through here. It's not enough to break anyone off the group, especially not this field. It'd be good to see at the start of the second one them pushing really hard, just giving a lead out. Their ride, I think, is what WMZ did in the morning Cat B session, with all the riders pushing quite hard, and then Leal just following in his wheel and then pushing through. We see, and no one here is going to let them go. It's all just falling little snake and then back into the main group itself. At least that's what I expect it'll be. And yep, as we can see, just a little snake of riders, everyone making sure there's not a big enough gap so they get out the draft, and the bunch just follows on. No one's going to do too much work in the bunch, so they don't want to be the ones chasing down, especially the top riders. They just rely on teammates and other teams to do that. And because it's so competitive and so tight at the top, while you want to beat certain other teams, it's not become like a 2-horse, 3-horse race where you know, okay, we have to chase that team down. So it means you can also then rely on other teams to do that. And lots of individual riders going for the points, irrespective of team standings. For those who watched the earlier stream, I mentioned it a little bit, but I think on this climb, the best way to kind of take points, which we saw back in the ZRL when we raced on a similar course on Surrey Hills, is that you attack about a minute out from the line. There's a bit of a flatter section, and I'd suggest even when you're in a small group, you start at the back of your small group in that flatter section, really accelerate through. You'll build speed, and then carry on pushing about 1 minute pace as you hit the incline. And you should just fly through the group because you've built momentum. Everyone else has been in the draft going a bit slower. You just fly through and make an easy 10-metre gap, if not 15 metres instantly on the climb. And that can be enough to break people. Especially a minute out, people don't want to chase that far. So if you can go early and go hard, you should have a comfortable kind of go into the line. The issue here is if multiple people do that, it then becomes a real punch out. And whoever can wait a little bit longer, just sit in the draft with the other person, will benefit. It's not a huge amount of draft, but it's every little helps, especially at the numbers people will be putting out 1 minute powers. Just around this corner we'll see the start banner for the line. So again, we've got a couple of people up the front. Veepkin from Watt Fabric, but we would like to see a lot of riders pushing towards the back here. We'll see where they are. You see Snowy, Ollie from the Goosters, Flintstone, Nanya, a lot of Valhalla riders, really probably targeting FTS heavily there for them. So most of the experienced riders just chilling towards the back there, getting the advantage. Oh, see Herzl miles off the back. Big credit, he must really be going for FTS, but he's going to have to push hard here. It'd be nice if he'd had a teammate or two to help him. You'd hope they'd work together and just help bring him back rather than him doing all this work, because this 5 watts per kilo when everyone else is doing 3 and a bit is going to really hurt him. Equally, if anyone else was watching, you'd like to see them pushing hard, trying to up the pace. Obviously, you're not going to suddenly drop him, but if you can make him have to do a lot more work to chase on, it can be really in your benefit. When you get really competitive divisions in ZRL, you can see that train off the back before segments getting really deep to the point where sometimes the riders can't actually make it back onto the front, which is always semi-entertaining to watch. We see Herzl's experience enough, he's made it back on, but we see how much damage that might have done to him. We'll find out a bit later on, I guess. He's moving his way through comfortably here, though. 5.5 watts per kilo, 5. Sad no one else has really pushed it yet. Now, it's a little bit early in the climb, but we're already up to 7-8%. It does get a bit steeper through the villager, but through the walled area ahead, as we see what presumably is Anya pushing the pace up front. But I'd like to have seen some people attacking a little bit earlier. I assume Sam Atkinson now on his Bluetron on a wheel. And then some of the KC and BZR riders. So as we hit this steeper section, it starts to really tell the difference, especially those riders who are doing 5.5 versus those who are about 4.5 watts per kilo. See it really stretching out, starting to lose riders already. A couple of the Goosters hanging towards the back. It's going to be brutal for them. We've only got one guy towards the front at the moment. But yeah, as we expected, it's the lighter weight people who we talked about earlier. BZR rider, junior rider, Abele, sorry, my pronunciation will be terrible of this. Sam Atkinson and Nanya. Got Paprokri of KC, another experienced good rider. I'm not sure he's on the lighter weight side. I think he's about 4.2, 70 odd kilos. So he's a good rider, and putting these numbers, I'm not sure he's gonna be able to keep with the front group. But again, as I always try and say, it's very important just to keep close to them, even if it's just the mental side of things. Like once you're close to the lead riders, you feel like you're there, you feel like you're doing well, irrespective of how you're actually feeling physically. And that can help push you on just that little bit extra when you're trailing towards the back, say towards here, where you see where Flintstone is now. You can see there's so many riders in front of you. While he's a very strong rider and can keep up with them, it's quite demoralising to see that big gap that you have to chase. That's why sometimes you'll see when it peaks up, people will just sprint through. In the middle of a hard effort, they'll just sprint through, because they're going to feel a lot more confident if they're towards the front. As you see Swanee dropping back a bit, it's sad to see. But if you look at the numbers he's having to hold, 5 watts per kilo for him is 500 watts, 5.5, 550 is just bonkers. Compared to, say, if we have a look at what Anya's needing to do. And, say, Vanderbiel, like 320, and they're doing 6 watts per kilo. It's just a whole different playing field for these lighter riders up this climb, and rightly so. The heavy guys have the advantage on the sprints and on the flats. And it's good to see that, there's a course on offer that's really going to benefit them. Especially at such a pinnacle of the race. So, not too long left, about 2 minutes left the climb. These people have been holding above 5.5 for a lot of it. Very big numbers, over into A category for most heavyweight riders, if not beyond A. Starting to board an A plus if you're approaching 6 watts per kilo, as Sam regularly is doing. But because they're lighter, they're allowed to do it. It gives them some kind of advantage to it. But yeah, we've got this front group of about 7 riders. It's good to see Georgiou Park, Alan from the Goosters, keeping up. Really impressive performance from him. Hope this is a bit of a breakthrough. And he carries on pushing on. It's really good to see. So this is where we start to come through the flatter section. So right now is where I'd like to see someone just getting in the draft, right where Alan is now, and then really starting to attack. Obviously, you're in a lot of pain. It's easy to say here, but if you can dig deep here, this is where you'll win the climb. So you're just in the chase group, Anya's just dropped back with Simon. They might be able to bridge across. If Simon's willing to do some work for her, they might make it across. But again, it's very easy to say when they're already in pain. See Simon then going up. But as we go back to the front, this is where the point's going to be won. I'm not sure I've come across this rider for Valhalla before. I assume they're a rider for Valhalla. But we'll see if we can find any information on them. I'm not sure. Anyhow, yeah, so Valhalla rider douches towards the front. No one's quite gone yet. I think they're leaving a little bit late, but this has been a very quick pace for a Cat B race. See, Sam Atkinson's really dropped off here. I'm not sure what's happened, whether he's had a dropout or he's just blown up. It's kind of sad to see. You know, he does have these, so Herzl's going really hard. He started to attack early, but he's dropped off the pace again. He's allowing douches from Valhalla back in. Like to see him just pushing a little bit harder, see if he can break it. It's 5 meters, 4 meters. Van Cutsum's coming through for BZR. Douche going up. Herzl left just a little bit too late to react. Didn't quite commit fully to it, but because he started so far back, he might stake it. There we go, you see. He started so far back, he won FTS by 2 seconds. That's 40 points straight away for Herzl there. Really clever riding from him. Georgiou Park coming through for the Goosters, but lots, 2 riders, Flintstone, Douche, and assume Anya's are here or thereabouts. For Valhalla, plenty outside the top 10. Just outside the top 10, so no points there for Anya, but a really good performance. And if she can grab onto a couple of these riders coming through her, she'll be able to keep in that front group. I think this is going to be the gap right here. I can't imagine unless Swanee and Lightswim are going to be able to put some decent work, and I don't think they're going to come back towards those lead riders up the field. And just going back, we have a couple more coming through. Snowy, you did really well in the sprint. Vikland, great rider for SRT. Paul, consistently up there for Dirty Eagles. A couple of TBR guys. Yeah, I think this group, we'll see a second group forming around 20th. Then up here, we're going to have front group. We see them really working hard to jump on. But those front few riders, I suspect this chase group, if they can get themselves together, it looks about 6 riders. Especially if Ollie and Dickens from the box can make it. It might be a bit big of an ask as we start to go into the super tuckable section. I think it might be too hard. I think Ollie needs to go full sprint, but you know, they've just come off a climb. I don't think they're going to make it back on. Very tough for them though. Probably be swept up by the group a bit further behind. But I think we've got this chase group of 6, maybe 7 riders, 6 riders. They should start to reel in the front guys who are all just spread apart. A little group of 2. Just got to be a little bit careful as they get up to speed that nothing opens up. Yeah, this group of 2 won't stay away at all. It's so much harder as a 2 because one of you is constantly in the draft, and as you're slowing down, the other hits it. That doesn't really give you time to come back through and maintain it. Should pick up Teresa from Rhino quite quickly. And then we have Douches, Herzl, and Van Cutsum from BZR in the front pack of 3. Suspect they'll be caught up towards the bottom of the climb. There is a little bit of a flatter section and then a climb. Midway down, you should be able to just see it in the mini-map where it looks flat. It's definitely not flat. There is a significant incline towards the end. I'm very disappointed by Simon. He told me I was his second favourite rider. I guess we found out whose favourite is there. Oh, it's breaking my heart here. I see lots of little groups up the road. Try and look back, see if there's anything bigger. Nice big group here. It's going to be interesting to see if they can really form up. A couple of the riders struggling at the back. They're really trying to sprint back on. It's very brutal on the lighter riders here. Especially with the likes of Swanee in this group. He's just going to be absolutely chilling. But it's so hard when you're dropping. You see Van Wyn doing 10 watts per kilo for a significant period of time. There's no way he's going to make that back on. Really got to pay attention through this campaign. Wow. Incredible numbers from Kevin there. Just all they're doing just to keep back on. That's why it's so careful. You moderate your pace. One little tip I have, there's a really dangerous tip, which is using the A key on a keyboard very quickly. A and escape, just very quickly to moderate your speed, but I just would never risk that on an important race. Otherwise, what you can do is soft pedal. So just as you're coming through the group, let's say, as the DZR, Daniel Wegner, is now just as you're coming through the group, just moderate your power when you're in the Super Tuck by coming out of Super Tuck, just doing like 50 watts, 100 watts, and that will actually slow you down slightly, and it avoids you hitting the front. As soon as you hit the front, you're back all the way out to the back, and if you're a lighter rider, that can be the end of your race in that group. But you see, that's really important there, coming over that lip that you push up. So it looks like we have a 10-second gap, and this group, as we expected, are chasing down the front 3. 3's it's a good number on the downhill. It's significantly faster than 1 or 2, but with a group that's double your size and probably a lot heavier, you're not going to be able to stay away. So it's going to be fun seeing this chase happening, because these riders will have a lot of interest to chase down this front group, which will become a group of 9. So when we hit the flats as we are doing now, it's going to be very much a chase on the way up Box Hill, which is really interesting, just what we like to see in this series. As I suspect, it is a lot more together than it was in the lower categories. As you go up the categories, the speeds are higher on the climb, and you're less likely to get big breakaways and big breaks. So as we go over here, we're just coming through Richmond Park. There's a little incline. It's not much, especially in this kind of scenario, but it does give the opportunity for that lead group to push away. I'd like to see them just being a bit more aggressive, but they've just come off the back of a climb. They've got another one. See, they're calling out, don't let that chase group on. But who's going to want to do the work here? There's no more than one rider from each team, so there's very little kind of interest. If you push, then you're going to benefit those rest of the guys around you. I think there are 2 Watt Fabric, and there is Valhalla, 2 Valhalla riders. As you see, Douche is in his marginally different kit. The stripes, the light blue and yellow stripes, along with Flintstone there in his blue kit for Valhalla. So there are 2 groups of 2, but they're not going to want to do work. As you see, the chase group just coming straight through and into them. That means Dirty Eagle have 2 now in the front group. Goosters have 2. So it's all back together for some of the lead teams, and it keeps it a bit more interesting going into the finish for the overall standings. And it looks like Beesdar are going to be doing very well and taking plenty of points up there. TBR will be a bit upset, I think, with Sam Atkins having the dropout or just blowing up. That's going to cost them quite a bit of points. I know he's one of the top rides in the series. I can't be too upset with him. He's been fantastic throughout. But I think he'll be gutted himself. I think that's going to leave Beesdar very much open to taking first in the series. And it's still to play for at the finish, but with the double points in that segment, that's a lot of points that Beesdar have just taken. So next group up the road's 26-second back. It is fairly large, but it's not going to come together, especially with the lighter rides in that front group and Box Hill coming up. There's a couple more behind them that might try and bring it back together for their groups. But I think that's going to be fairly it in terms of the lead group. While we're waiting, I'll just get you a little image of the course, what's left to come up for you. Let's see if we can, not sure I can correct it, but see we're just at the base. You should see a cursor here. We've just come over this little bump through Richmond. We've got Box Hill coming up. It's a fairly consistent climb up. It flattens out at the top. Again, we're not going for segment points here, so I don't think it'll be too brutal over the lip. But it'll just be a consistently fast pace going up. And then most importantly, there's a little horrid kicker just before the downhill. We will definitely lose riders on there as people sprint to try and drop them. So we'll see, and then we've got the long downhill, very consistent, super tuckable the entire time. Then the escalator, which again will be an interesting part, and then the finish. It's fairly straightforward with 2 key technical points. It's going to be brutal up the climb, but then the big kick at the end, and then the escalator are going to be the real make or break points for a lot of these riders. Otherwise it'll end up with a strong sprint finish. We're just looking at the numbers. See, no one's really working. No one wants to push the pace. It's all just waiting for the Box Hill climb. It'll be interesting to see if there's riders like Douches for Valhalla, Van Cutsum, BZR, Teresa, Rhino. If anyone wants to try and push Herzl, push really hard at box and just kind of break it up. In terms of the group, pure sprint-wise, Swanee's definitely going to be up there at the finish if he can keep up the climb. Herzl will be up there. Collins got good watts per kilos. Cobra Kai. Flintstone definitely be up there. I mean, every rider here is a strong rider. I'll see if we can just show you the actual watts per kilo and sprint of those in this front group. Might not be as easy as I'm making it out to be. Depends how well ZwiftPower is working, which is normally quite badly in terms of live data. I mean, big credit to those who have done it. When it was ran by individuals, it worked a lot smoother. Really big shout out to those guys who put it together. It's a fantastic thing, but since Zwift's taken over, it's kind of fallen apart a little bit. It hasn't had quite the same impact that we would have liked. So you see a couple of people pushing to begin with. Schultz from Watt Fabric going quite hard. But yeah, as an individual, you're unlikely to kind of stay away. We did see it earlier in C. I don't think that's going to happen in this category. So I think Flintstone here dropping off. Maybe he thinks he just isn't going to make it up. Just wants to go at a more steady pace. Not quite sure why he'd go for that. He might just be absolutely on his limit, which is totally understandable. It's been brutal so far. But yeah, he's totally gone for the front group now. So, do you see the Watt Fabric guy still pushing Schultz? Going really hard at the front, 5 watts per kilo. The other riders in this group probably should be able to hold close to 5 watts per kilo if fresh up here, but we're looking at more like 4.7, 4.8 realistically at the moment for a Cat B riders. A couple of the lighter people probably can hold 5 up here for 7 minutes. But, you know, they are very fatigued. Even if they have had a rest, the legs are going to be heavy. See Douche from Valhalla starting to try and push across perhaps. Up to 5.2. Looks like he might be trying to make an effort to get across. Again, all he has to really do is just hold a little bit above Schultz. But of note is 4%, 25, 26 kilometers now, so there is going to be draft behind him. People are going to be able to just sit on his wheel and get a benefit. So if he's just going to hold 0.2 above, he wants to drop the gap. See, it's about 5 meters. If he wants to do this chase down, I'd really recommend he just kicks out for a little bit first. Whereas at the moment, he's just leading out that group together. See Watchorn from Box, not sure, familiar with this rider, but seems to be doing really well. I mean, he has to be doing well to be in this group and pushing hard at 7 watts per kilo. He was pushing through the flatter section though, not the best move. He'd have been better just holding on for a few seconds before making this jump across, but you know, big credit for making the jump, having the balls to do that. Hopefully he's able to just sit in here for a little bit before pushing on and through. Now there's 2 riders up there. It's very much a big threat, this breakaway. They haven't got much time, but I mean, the chase group is very together. They don't have enough time to actually stay away. If they're going to do it, they need to be looking at 10-15 seconds minimum by the top. And they're not really doing the numbers for that at the moment, especially with Teresa chasing down 5.2, Douches above 5 as well. What they might be doing is while these guys and girls are pushing these numbers, they're starting to fracture out the chase group. It's all just holding together, and if it gets over the top like this, it'll definitely stay together. But it's just spreading out, and if they can maintain that pace, they might just break it apart, which again will work in those 2 riders up the road's favour. Let's see if we can just watch them coming up, see the group chasing them down. It's fairly consistent from here, but a long last stretch. It kind of feels like you're almost there at this point. Sadly, after it is a good 2 and a bit minutes from here onwards, if not 3 minutes. But it feels like, you know, you're getting there. You're onto the last straight section before the line. So yeah, we'll see if we can get those numbers up for the front group. Just chuck them in the corner if we can. Oh, well, I'll quickly try and chuck them up for you. I don't think we can put them in the corner. But we should be able to see them for the front group. Hope this isn't too, just so nothing major happens. So just having a look at the watts per kilo. So Swanley at 14.1 watts per kilo, Herzl 14.4, Kevin Hamer 13.9, and Killian 14.9. The front group are going to be big favourites. There is Sasha Damrau from KC. I've not actually seen him. I'm not sure if he's there. And Wegener from DZR, both big numbers. But those are the people we're going to be really looking out for if it holds together towards the finish. So again, for those other riders who I haven't just called out, it's really going to be in their favour to kind of push on through. Try and make this breakaway, see if it can go, attack early on the climb. Because once you get onto the downhill and the flats, those sprint riders are going to be fairly unstoppable. At 14 and a bit watts per kilo, most of the other riders are around 10, 11, some even less. There's no way they can compete with them, no matter how badly those top guys time it. So it's really up to them to kind of instigate something. And as we've seen, this gap has opened up. It's about 3 seconds. And we've got 6 riders, I believe. 6 riders, yeah. In this front breakaway, 4-second gap. It might just stay away. Depends if this one can come back together, I guess. I think there's about 8 in this chase, 7 in this chase. Again, when we get over the top, these front riders are probably pushing a little bit harder and they'll just want to ease up. 2 Watt Fabric guys, though, they might work together. They might be willing to sacrifice one. Or at least one works a bit harder to get them over. Never quite know what people are capable of and how much they want to work as a team. Lots of teams are very much focused, relentless. There's one team I know of quite well who are really focused on kind of working together. And it's all about working together for points over individual performance. SZR, who are now ESRT and Racing Today, very much team focused. So they very much want to work together. They'll do things like one person will go very long while the other just sits in. And, you know, one of them will then win, short of an absolute outrageous chase and then sprint performance. So it's interesting to see how many teams do want to work See, one of the What Fabric guys now pushing the pace at the front. I guess because they do have two in the front group, they are going to try and want to pull this pack apart, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now the question is if anyone can chase on. 7 seconds is quite a lot, especially as this group is quite spread out, and I don't think they have a significant numerical advantage. Two Eagles guys with Swanee and Kevin. You'd like to see Swanee or Kevin pushing, especially Swanee. You know, he has a lot of raw watts. He's a great time trialer. If he can really push hard, he could probably close this gap down on his own. But again, he's going to hurt himself for the finish. So we'll see. I guess a lot of it will come to the pace going into this little climb that was coming up. It's about 20-second effort. It's not quite as brutal as the escalator. It doesn't get up to those sheer horrific numbers of 15-16%, if not more. But it's enough to really do some damage, and you'll see top people just sprinting over this. I'm just going to keep the focus on the front few people here because it is quite interesting. And there's lots of other rides, all deserve their credit for pushing really hard and having a great performance up the climb. But there's so much going on at the top end, it's very tight. As you can see, Schultz pushing. He's just going to, as much as I hate to say it, he's probably gone a little bit too hard. He's not going to solo breakaway to the finish now. It's way too tight. And he's just wasted a bit of effort because no one's gone with him at those pace. And as you can see, that chase group's really catching up now. 3 seconds. Swanee's really pushing hard. Van Cutsum, Ollie, Kevin Hamer, all really working hard over there. Just see if Baker can make it on now. He really needs to push hard here. If you see the gap, 10 metres. I mean, same with Radek and Colin. That's going to be very difficult. That Baker's gone now. I would be absolutely amazed if he makes it back on. It's possible, but that gap is horrendous. 25 metres. It's just going to keep growing. I mean, these two, Radek and Colin, are going to be in a tough position, especially going to the Super Tuck. See Swanee putting out some monster watts again. If he can get himself to the front, getting a good Super Tuck, he'll close that gap instantly. It's going 82 kilometres now versus 77, 76 for that group ahead. That chase group's going to close up very quickly. We see Schultz has taken a gap, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. Once Swanee and the rest of the group catch on, though, I think it's going to come together quite quickly for Schultz. Be good to see someone going for a breakaway, see if he can try and hold it. But I doubt he's going to manage that. You can see Radek and Baker just getting dropped so quickly. Absolutely brutal on them. They did all the hard work. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're not paying attention, you're not quite with it on that climb, that's race over. So we see this chase group now. 4 seconds to Schultz, 3 seconds. They're doing about 78. I mean, Schultz is going quick, to be fair to him. But he's, you know, 4 or 5 kilometers an hour slower. They're going to reel that in so quickly, especially when they hit the flats. Being treated to some lovely London weather now, as you'd expect from this course. Keeping it nice and skiddy. I'm sure all these riders are very thankful for not having to use their brakes down here, or attempting to actually slow. I'm not sure I'd risk doing 80 kilometers downhill through sharp bends in the rain. We've got an almost hairpin bend here. Very realistic. But there we go. All reeled back in. So we have a nice little group of 10 going into the finish. I see getting the chat out already. I imagine everyone's dead in this front group. That's just a little bit further back. Oh, he has been dropped. That's unfortunate and brutal on him. But let's see, we've got this group of 10. It's going to be very interesting coming into here. We're going to see a bit of a punch-up. Now the riders have seen people getting dropped over the climb at the end of Box Hill. I'd like to hope that they're aware of the escalator and are going to go up very hard. The downside of it, as we saw with the front group, if you go up very hard, people don't get with you, like with Schultz. You're just going to be left on your own. And, you know, you've essentially wasted effort. Well, it's not a negative. You've wasted a lot of effort where you didn't need to. So here we go. I'd like to see numbers around 8, I reckon, up here. There we go. Swanee going 9.6, 11, 12s, yeah. No one's going to let anyone go for an early breakaway. I think it might be on people like Swanee's mind, see if he could individual time trial it from here, but with this group and this quality of it, it's just not going to happen. Trees there. Oop. One of the What Fabric guys has gone there. God. Called it earlier, but I'm still surprised to see it. such experienced riders, you know, I mean, we talk about experience, but there's nothing you can do if you don't have the watts, if you're too tired. It's very easy to blame it on missing it or not realising, but sometimes everyone's aware of what's coming up, they can't do anything about it. So let's just see what's happening to the finish side. We've got Kevin, who's going to be strong up there. I'm not sure the Valhalla rider. Douche has got a particularly strong sprint, but he is a strong rider. He might try and go a bit long. I think Kevin's going to be up there. Swanee's to the Eagle Fang rides. Going to be taking a lot of points here. BZR again will be very, very strong. Van Cutsum's strong. Who else is... Who's the other BZR rider we've got up here? Am I just misreading kits? It's Watchhorn. Yeah, from the box. Looks like it's in a BZR kit. Anyhow, though, Eagle Fang definitely is in their kind of hands of what they want to do here. Swanee's letting a bit of a gap open up. I don't think you'd like to see it getting this big. So you'd like to see people starting to... Well, wouldn't like to, but I suspect we'll start to see people attacking in about 10 seconds or so. See, there we go. As textbook, Swanee goes. Ollie from the Goose is prepared for Swanee's early attack. He's doing enough. He just needs to bridge that gap. If he can bridge that gap, he's going to be in for the favourites. Big then gap out to Van Cutsum. Oh, it's 8 metres that gap from Ollie. If he can just get across it, he's going to be golden for the finish. 6 metres, can he bridge it? 5, there we go. Ollie's going to be in a great position now. He just needs to chill off. You see, he dropped down to 8 watts per kilo. I'm not sure if that was out of choice, but he's in such a good position. So now he's Swanee's draft just to come through for the win. I see there just Ollie kicking again, just using the momentum. He's just going to fly through. Nothing Swanee can do there, but great performance. Douche's Valhalla takes 3rd. I think BZR in about 7th. Because everyone coming through now. Him from What Fabric comfortably coming through in 10th there. Just getting dropped, but you know, Colin's pushing hard, trying to catch him from Cobra Kai, but there's no way he's going to make that gap. I think he's dropped Radak there somehow, and Bake will come through in 13th. And we've got this little group of 4, which is Georgie Park, did really well on the first climb for the Goosters. Colin DeGrom, BZR Lions, and KO, I'm not sure, I'm not going to try from DZR. So Georgie Park again going quite early as predicted. DeGrom's made that jump, DeGrom's got him. DeGrom's comfortably in that 5 metre gap, so he can just do a bit less. He's doing more as he is now, and he's just going to slowly eke his way through. Hopefully he can do it before the line, I think he will do. And there, perfectly. He managed to break the gap, and he's right there. See this group behind, lots of rides in it. Very early attack from Valhalla, Flintstone and Bordeaux. Fabrice rises in APAC quite regularly going for it. Bordeaux just seems to be falling off, and a lot of people have managed to grab onto Flintstone's wheel and just coming through hot. They might not make it all the way across to Bordeaux, though. I hope he has a little bit more. Oh, he's just going to get swarmed. Oh, that's brutal. Just eased a bit early, ran out of gas a bit early, and just couldn't quite hold it. It's amazing how quickly your speed drops when you're not doing those big red numbers compared to everyone else. Absolutely horrid to see for the bloke. But a great performance to be up there anyway. You have a little group of 4. There's a bit of a gap. London Beale on the lighter riders. He needs to go a bit earlier. And I think his red numbers caused everyone else in that lead group to push hard. Snakes from Cryogen to take it. Andrew for the Goose should just be comfortable enough through there. I see the rest of them. Oh, there we go. Phew. Thought we'd lost it there. We've got Shanks just on their own from ZR Scott coming through comfortably. And then we've got a nice big group here. A couple of the Gooses, Aryan, Colin, strong rider. See there, first one goes, BMTR. See, with a bigger group, you want to wait a little bit longer. You don't want to be the first one to go. You might not even want to be the second, but you see Colin's great sprint. Putting out 14 to begin with. He's got the jump instantly. He'll be comfortably for that win. Then Radek Proki coming through quite hot. He's not going to make all the way across to Colin, you don't think, but he's doing really well. Arjan Deepak coming through. Again, just you want to be that second person to make the jump if you can, or third. The bigger the group, the further back you want to make that jump. And the earlier it is, the further back you want to make the jump. If you're, you know, if you say where Damgard is now, you want to just, if someone goes, you want to be the third kind of rider going unless a gap opens up too quickly. It's a tough decision. You've got to make it instantly. But you've got to think about where you are. The closer you are, the quicker you need to react. Further away, the slower you can react. You want someone else to get that lead if you can and then punch through them. Unless it's a really strong rider, at which point you just have to go. You see, it has spread out a lot. But all these points are really valuable. It is a team event, and that third, fourth rider, if they can score a couple of segment points, and you know, top 40 at the finish, top 50 even, they're going to do well for the team. because it's so competitive. You know, there's such a variety of riders and teams in the top groups. I'm not sure we've seen many teams get their first 4 through the line already. You see the 2 riders, Ali, quite an experienced rider. I'm not sure about Hodgetts from Rhino. Could be a very experienced rider, don't know him too well. Suspect Ali will just sit back a bit here and just try and punch through. He's just getting a bit ahead. Not sure quite what game he's trying to play here. Okay, he's just going to go. Problem there is if Hodgetts can react, he's got plenty of time to get on Ali's wheel, and he can just come through him. Ali should have either made the move as he was coming forwards through him naturally, or he should have made them dropped back a bit and then made the move. Well, he might just be able to hold it though. He's putting out some far bigger watts. He's just going to hold it off. Fantastic from Ali there. I think the watts advantage made a big difference on that and helped him take away, but he didn't play that as well as he could have done. Had to do a lot more work than was possibly necessary. Got a couple of single riders coming through. See how Bosco Uribe, strong rider, very good sprint, does against Nicholson of the box. Just have a look, see if we can get some numbers for you. So, oh, this should be tight. Nicholson with a 14.6 watt per kilo sprint, and Bosco Uribe with a 14.7. Bosco Uribe has a lot more watts though. 80 kilos versus 65 of Nicholson. See, they're going working quite hard early, just making each other do a bit of hard work. Nicholson can't quite bridge across though. If I was Uribe, I'd be looking at that gap, seeing 9 meters and just going. They are doing, they're holding it above 6, just eking out that gap. Nicholson needs to start sprinting now. Nicholson has to go now, bridge across. If you can jump across now, they've been doing 6 for a bit, you'll just demoralise them. But no, Uribe's just holding out that gap. And Nicholson just needs to go. You've got to commit and get across early. Uribe's going to have a little bit of a sprint left if they need. And they're going to be able to resist Nicholson's attack from here. No way he's going to come across from this point. Just had to do it a little bit earlier and jump the gap instantly. You don't want to find yourself 10 or so meters back, as you're going to have to put in so much effort. It gives time for the lead rider to react. You want to get across that gap early and leave it all in their hands. As soon as you're across that gap, the advantage is in your hands. You always want to be the second rider out of 2 with a tight gap. You can watch them react. You win their draft. You have the advantage. You can jump and react to them. If they're in first, unless they can put out another 2-3 watts per kilos on you, they're not going to accelerate fast enough to get out the draft, even with the delay from the Zwift serves, etc. You see, it's quite tight here. Witzel's having to react just with Heiberg coming through from DZR. The gaps are all fairly open. It's unlike anyone's going to bridge across there. So moving back to Watson, Finlay, ZS Scott and Valhalla. Be fairly evenly matched. I think Watson has a bit of power advantage, just sitting in the right place here, just sitting second wheel and then just punches through. Finlay's got no chance here. While he can put out some big watts, it's not going to be enough. Watson had the advantage. He was able to take advantage of that draft and reacting first, and while, you know, he had to maybe make 7-8 meters to get all the way ahead before the other rider reacted. There's plenty of time and draft to do that. You're going to accelerate and be accelerating quicker because you're in the draft. See Sam Atkinson and Anya just working towards the finish now. Had a tough time at Box Hill from the looks of things. Atkinson dropped quite far back. The first hill is doing a bit too much work. Both great riders, but you can see how kind of brutal that pace was up the climb. That some of the top riders, and you've got Clem as well back here, as I was saying a few weeks ago, just shows the strength and depth that you've got some of the riders that are normally right at the top of the category, really low ranking, very experienced, and they're finishing towards the back end of the field. Not quite sure what's happened there. I'm not sure if Anya's dropped a bit of pace. Jones is just flying through her there. She's just right on a limit. And there's still points to fight for, but it is getting very insignificant at this stage. So would never try and just easily let a place go. It's always worth fighting for it. I mean, unless you're against your teammates in this box versus box battle here. But I'd never just let a place go. You never know when it's going to be 1 point apart. So I think most of the gaps are fairly far apart now. We'll just watch these two box riders come through. Everyone else has significant gaps apart from. And then we'll get you some results up on the screen. I'm not sure they're necessarily going to try and race each other to the finish, but, you know, sometimes your biggest rival, your own teammate, it's always great to get one over on them and beat them while you can. This has been quite a long race. Thank you to the people anyone who's stuck with it and watching the stream. It's really great having your support. Hopefully it's added a bit towards it. Heard a couple of people had dropouts. It's really horrible to hear. Sorry about that. It is one of those things, and that's why it's nice having this I mentioned earlier, where, you know, a dropout isn't the end of the world. But thank you for those who have watched. Makes a big difference. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this channel next. I've got quite a lot of de-essing videos up. Load some more interesting races I do in the future. Do a bit more commentary, which I'm enjoying. If you've got any feedback, please just leave anything in the comments. Always happy for criticisms, advice, whatever. Or just drop me a message on Discord. Hopefully I get to race again soon. And race against some of you guys. Though maybe not this field, because all of you are absolutely amazing. Especially Simon, even if I'm your second favourite rider. So just slowly coming to the finish of the box. I think Demo has a bit of a sprint advantage over Forbes. But again, they might just cruise in together. We'll see what happens. No point missing what could be some very interesting thing. I'm sure the rest of you on the stream can deal with another minute or two of me talking. As if an hour and 10 minutes wasn't enough. So there we go. So Forbes goes early. Demo has the sprint advantage, but you see that early move so strong, you can just put people off wanting to compete. So I always recommend, if you are in a small group, just do it hard, do it early. And people quite often won't chase. And if you think about 7 watts per kilo, you know, most people in this field could hold that almost for a minute. And yet, 7 watts per kilo, when you think about it as a number, it just seems ridiculous, so high. But, you know, you can hold it, you can do it. Everyone would be able to chase it down, but if you see that ahead of you, you're not really going to want to chase. Well done to Forbes here, managing to take the place. I'll just see Demo coming through the line. Okay, so here we have the results on ZwiftPower. I'm not sure if the actual results will be up on Dirt Racing Series website. Would strongly recommend looking at it when you get a chance, though. So, as we said, Swanee went a little bit earlier, similar to on the sprint, just led out other riders. His lessons learned. He did really well in the opening few races, taking a win. Well, taking 2 wins even. But today wasn't quite the day. I mean, no one turns out and sniffs away a second place, but fair play to Ollie. I know Swanee will be kicking himself a little bit. Then we had C and the Douches from Valhalla in third. Dickens, I believe, was... Oh, not sure what team Dickens was from. I'll see if I can find out for you. Oops. Let's have a quick search. Well, not showing up. We'll see. I should have remembered. You'll hopefully be able to go back on the stream. Then we have Watchhorn from the box in 5th. Van Cutsum BZR in 6th, Hamer from Eagle Fang 7th, Schutz from Watt Fabric 8th, Teresa from Rhinos in 9th, and Karsten from Watt Fabric in 10th. Really good, lots of Watt Fabric rides, a couple of Dirty Eagles, and BZR with a rider, Krista Grom, coming out 15th. Yeah, 15th. Doing well, so another good result for BZR. Should be enough. We'll see if the primes are up, then we can just show you. Nope, sadly not. Anyhow, I'll move on to the classifications. So as always, a good result for BZR. TBR didn't quite have as great a day with not many rides towards the front compared to usual, so I think they might drop down. I think Valhalla and Eagle Fang might move up and possibly knock them out of the top 3. It'll be close. But BZR should comfortably be the team classification winner, so big congratulations to them. Even if they haven't, it's a great performance and great to see them doing so well as a team. Going on to the specialism, the climber. Be interesting to see. Van Cutsem might have moved up into first. There's so many points on offer. It'll be interesting to see with that one. I'm not actually sure what's going to happen. Herzl did well, but he just got dropped from the top few riders towards the end. In terms of the sprinters, Swanee did well, but I think Snowy will have probably bridged across the gap to take first, so well done. I mean, well done to both of you. It's really good. I'll just go back to the team. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Hopefully you get the full results soon. It's been a pleasure commentating on the series, and really big credit to all you riders. It was such a tough field, and you all did so well. If you're looking at just looking at the rider list, you see the people coming towards the bottom of each race. It was so competitive, and it's great to see such a strong series. So hopefully there'll be some details out soon about the next series. It'll be great to have you all there. I'm looking forward to commentating and seeing you all then, if I don't race you beforehand. Cheers, everyone.